This anime tells about an orphan from a village. He is the sole survivor of the war in his village. As he grows up, he enrolls in a popular academy in the city and gets close to several girls. However, he is belittled because he is unable to use sorcery. Moreover, he also gets bullied because he is ordinary from a village. But he accepts it patiently as he actually has an overwhelming power. The story begins in the past, where there is a boy crying on someone's grave named Havard. The scene moves and shows a war where Havard died. The boy tried to help him, but he died in front of him. Besides, there was also a girl whose body was severely injured. The boy accidentally unleashed his sorcery. Everyone was shocked seeing the sorcery that is called overheating. Soon, the sorcery disappeared. The scene switches to the boy called Ray, who has grown up and goes to Arnold Academy. He is underestimated by the other students as he looks like a plebeian. As he tries to search for the hall, a girl bumps into him. He asks her if she is okay. Seeing his handsome face, she feels shy and awkward. But as she finds Ray is not from a sorcerer family nor a nobleman, and that he is just an ordinary, the girl is surprised and suddenly feels disgusted. Later, Albert, a son of a nobleman, comes. He states that only a sorcerer who can enroll in the academy, or those who are born from a sorcerer family. Moreover, Albert states that Ray doesn't deserve to be in Arnold Academy and tries to assault him. But Ray easily avoids it, and later, a girl comes, trying to break it up. She is Amelia, the third daughter of a top nobleman in the city. Her presence leaves Albert in silence and everyone stunned. Albert then leaves Ray while feeling mad. Amelia introduces herself to Ray. She feels amazed with Ray because he is ordinary that succeeds to enroll in the academy. She states that he must have great skill. The scene continues on the welcoming ceremony, where the principal called Abby is giving her speech about the history of the academy and advises to the students so that they can become a useful sorcerer for the country. It is followed with speech from the student representative that is represented by Amelia. Amelia delivers her speech beautifully, making everyone feels amazed. In the classroom, Ray becomes the talk of the crowd. He introduces himself and states that he comes from an ordinary family and that he wants to become a great sorcerer. Miss Helena, as the teacher, then tells Ray to take his seat. Ray is seen to get close to Amelia, which upsetting Albert. As Ray sits, he sees the view of the city and it reminds him with his past. Suddenly, a chalk is thrown towards him, but he surprisingly catches it, but it explodes and he is exposed with the dust. Miss Helena asks about the sorcerer's rank, which Amelia states that Sorcerer Society classifies the sorcerer's rank into 5 ranks: bronze, silver, gold, platina, and grand as the holy rank. Miss Helena then explains that in all generation there are only 7 grand sorcerers, called by the 7 grand sorcerers. However, their identities are still a mystery. There is a rumor that mentions several of them. First, the principal of the academy, Abby, the blaze sorcerer. The second is Carol, the spellbinding sorcerer, and then someone who was always hailed as the hero in the Far East War, the Ice Blade sorcerer, but he disappeared after the war ended. Albert asks Miss Helena how the ordinary is able to enroll in the academy if the academy wants to make grand sorcerer. Miss Helena then states that all students have passed the entrance test and also the interview test. The students continue to learn magic practices. They start from the theory of magic, which is a technique to reconstruct the first material in the world, prima materia. Helena then shows it to the students where her magic spells look like a coding sequence. She states that the spells are basic of magic. Besides, she explains that magic materials are sorted into 4: solid, liquid, gas, and plasma, and besides them are the phenomenon of magic.
プリママテリアが再構築。厳密に言えば魔術は主に物質は4つの要素に分類でき、固体、液体、気体、してプラズマだ。が現象だ。
One of the students asks Helena about the anti-material code, but she answers that there is no sorcerer is able to use anti-material code, which is the content of Ainsworth dual code theory, and is a doctorate-level theory. They then begin practicing to encoding the prima materia. Amelia seems like she manages to do it properly and gets praised by the other students. On the contrary, Ray is belittled as he cannot do it properly. when in fact he is doing it not seriously. They think his magic is child-level magic and that he had bribed the school to get into the academy. It is seen that Albert is getting more furious with him. After the class ends, Ray walks along the corridor and spots his classmate is entering the library. Ray follows her and introduces himself. His friend then introduces herself as Elisa. Elisa states she admires Ainsworth and that she wants to be like him. Ray then replies that he respects Ainsworth a lot. Hearing that, Elisa gets interested with him and accidentally makes her hood to fall and reveals her hair. Ray praises her beautiful hair, and as Elisa is about to cover her hair, Ray asks her why she covers her head. Elisa then asks him if her ears look bizarre. She explains she is a demi-human, where her mother is an elf. She tells him that she was bullied because of her ears, but Ray praises her and makes her shy and happy. Elisa also praises him as he is wise, even though he is still young, reminding him with his superior that said the same thing. Scene moves to the dormitory. As Ray enters his room, he meets his roommate who is already there. His name is Evie. Evie states that he is different from other noblemen. He then approaches Ray and shakes his hand. Evie feels that they look alike. Immediately, they take off their shirts, revealing their muscles. They praise each other and get closer. The following day, when Ray is jogging, he meets a girl named Rebecca, who is his upperclassman. Ray greets her and introduces himself, but turns out Rebecca has known him and states he is popular. Besides, he is the first ordinary to get into the academy. Ray then tells Evie about that. Evie is surprised as Rebecca is one of 3 noble families. Evie goes on to explain about 3 noble families. One of them is Amelia, who is the oldest daughter of the Rose family. When Ray enters the academy, he is hit by a girl. However, the girl scolds him and Ray doesn't have a choice but to apologize. The girl then notices Ray as the popular student, and Ray compliments her, and she is blushed. She then introduces herself, mentioning she is Clarice, and she gets close to him easily. After that, Ray goes to meet the principal, Abby, who was his former colonel. Ray feels awkward being there, causing Abby to laugh. She then recalls her past with her party. The scene moves and shows Ray and Albert are doing sparring practice. Al looks serious to beat Ray. When the judge starts the match, Albert attacks Ray seriously, but Ray manages to block it, surprising their friends. Albert launches his attacks to Ray again with his wooden sword, but Ray easily breaks his sword. Abby, who watches the match, feels glad that Ray is enjoying his school life, moreover that Ray is the Ice Blade sorcerer. The scene switches and shows Ray and Evie is doing workout in their room. Ray tells Evie that he wants to join 2 clubs while showing his golden card. Soon, Ray is seen entering a room where there are several muscled men inside. Ray introduces himself. The head of the Environmental Research Club asks him if he really wants to join the club. He states that the club frequently has extreme activities such as exploring forests, rivers, and even glaciers. Moreover, he states that the members of the club know no fear and people call them Hunter. They assume Ray is weak and will not be able to get into the club. The head of the club then asks Ray to take off his shirt. Ray complies and shows his muscles, much to their surprise. The head of the club asks Ray how he trains, which he replies he used to train in the forest. Furthermore, he also asks Ray if he has a gold hunter license. Ray then shows his license to everyone, and he is accepted to join the club. After that, Ray visits the gardening club, which is led by Rebecca. She questions his purpose to take part in the club. Ray explains that he is interested with living plants. In fact, he found a flower in a war area. All the members don't accept him because he is the only man in the club, and they assume he only wants something from Rebecca. Unexpectedly, Rebecca leaves the matter to Dina, which she has to evaluate him first. Dina looks like she wants to reveal his true purpose. The scene switches to the top of the school building, where they are going to make a new garden. But there are still a lot of grass and the soil cannot be used. Thus, Ray has to make it within a week by himself. On the first day, Ray cuts the grass and followed by soften the soil with a hoe on the second day. On the third day, he begins building the garden. Rebecca comes to see him and bring him food. They sit side by side on the bench while talking to each other. Just then, Ray heard someone is practicing swordsmanship. Rebecca explains that Magic Chevalier will be held soon. It is a competition to find the strongest swordsman. She asks him if he wants to take part in the competition. Ray replies that he will think it later. However, Rebecca looks at Ray's muscles and amazed with it. She then touches his muscles, much to her amusement. On the other hand, the girls are envy with Ray as he can get close to Rebecca, while Amelia doesn't say a word seeing their interaction. Shortly after, the members of the gardening club are amazed with his work. After taking a look at the garden, Dana finally passes him, and they decide to plant new flowers. In the principal's room, Abby assigns Ray to investigate spies from the Empire who infiltrated the kingdom, even into the academy, and let her know if he finds something. On the way, he sees Clarice, who is looking at something. It turns out she is looking at an insect. She tells him she feels a bit odd and different from other noblemen, who usually like cute animals. It makes her difficult to befriend with others. Ray tells her it is normal because he also likes insects, and he asks Clarice to be his friend. Clarice feels happy as she has never had any friends. Moreover, Ray tells her he wants to talk about insects in the forest with her. Hearing that, she shyly accepts the invitation. The scene moves to the classroom, where Miss Helena talks about the derivation of sorcery. Ray explains that primary sorcery is divided into low, medium, high, and saint level. Furthermore, he explains there are several subcategories: quick, remote, chain, delay, material shift, extensive, and extensive chain. After that, Miss Helena tells the students they are going to practice sorcery in the forest, and they have to make a group of 4. The students immediately group with their circle. On the other hand, Ray is still alone. Evie then offers to be his teammate as he knows Ray is strong. Ray then invites Elisa to join his team. Initially, Elisa refuses because she thinks she will be only a burden for him, but Ray and Eva convince her, which she finally agrees. Unexpectedly, Amelia asks to join their team, and Ray immediately accepts it. It surprises everyone. In the forest, Miss Helena explains the practice is intended to reach the center of the forest. Furthermore, she explains they need to go to the checkpoints and that their stamp will affect their score. They have 24 hours to complete the training. It is explained that Kafka Forest is full of monsters that grow in an isolated environment. It will repeat a year if they call out for help. The students get ready with their team. Amelia seems to calm down Elisa, who is nervous. Evie states that Ray doesn't seem nervous at all. Ray tells them he used to be familiar with such an environment. Later, they arrange a strategy and short story tell. The training is started. They begin their journey and take a rest occasionally until a monster appears and attacks Elisa. Ray comes to save her and kills the monster in one strike. Apart from that, they find a stamp that makes them more excited. On the other hand, Albert's party seems to get confused with their map, and Clarice, who is fascinated with Bug Monster. When the night falls, Ray and his party decide to set up a fire and talk about Ray, who turns out to be strong and good at survival. Amelia talks about the forest, and makes Ray doubt Amelia for knowing his true identity. Amelia tells them to drop the formality as she hates it and wants to be what she wants. Evie then tells Ray that he will depend on him, recalling him with his friend in the past. Ray is deep in thought and makes his friends worry. They then decide to sleep and Ray will be in charge of watching. Ray remembers with his master who didn't tell him to hide his identity. But if he wished to enjoy his school life, he might have to hide his identity. Ray is confused as he has made friends. The following day, as they are about to continue their journey, they hear someone screaming. Ray rushes to the scene. It turns out Albert and his party are attacked by a monster. Using his magic, Ray easily avoids its attack and defeats the monster.
嫌な予感がする。くそ、どうなってつけ出す。インサイドコード。なんだあの動きは。
Ray offers his hand to Albert, but he doesn't take it and scolds him. Eve and the others arrive and they help Albert's teammate. Meanwhile, Eve, who sees Ray defeating the monster, becomes suspicious with his identity. On the other hand, an intruder seems to transfer a magic to the monster, causing the monster to revive and grow stronger. Albert and his party are scared seeing the monster. Clarice also hears and sees the monster, which is attacked by Ray. Ray thinks it is a quite strong monster. As he is about to use his magic, Amelia, Eve, and Elisa help him making a combo. Ray blows his attack and successfully defeats the monster. They praise and calm each other, causing Ray to recall his party back then. One of Albert's teammates states that Ray is not a bad sorcerer, which infuriates Albert. On the other hand, Clarice is seen fascinated with Ray's overpowered strength. Meanwhile, the intruder immediately leaves the forest. Finally, Ray and his party complete their stamps. However, Elisa feels she is only a burden. Ray states that training in forest is hard, but Eve and he had trained their physics every day and makes the rest have to follow their pace, and states that it is Evie and Ray who should apologize to them. Finally, the final score is announced. It is known that Ray and his party have earned the highest score of all. Clarice, who feels happy for them, gets a cynical look from her party. Everyone is jealous with Ray, who is one team with Amelia. Evie is surprised that his classmates don't cheer for their victory. Ray states it is because of him. Thus, his teammates soothe him, saying that their team got the best score. The scene switches to Lydia, who is Ray's master. She feels upset because Ray hasn't visited her for 2 months. She is upset because he has taken too long to be a different person. She looks outside and sees that Ray has arrived. She goes on to see and welcome him. She tells him that she has been waiting for him and asks him if his magic has recovered. Ray states there is no progress yet. Lydia predicts it will take 5 years or more. He is also not allowed to use magic unless for emergency. It is known that Lydia is the person who named him the Ice Blade Sorcerer. It is revealed Lydia invited him there because there is a rumor among the sorcery's researchers that is related to engram. Lydia informs she has something different, which is about brain. She states that sorcery is created from brain, that at the frontal lobe of the brain, the internal processing will be carried out with code theory before embodiment by disturbing the prima materia. Furthermore, Lydia states she found double code theory that brings along a new movement where the sorcery researchers have close relation to the brain. An engram is the part that memorizes sorcery in the brain. She thinks her research is very interesting because it might uncover the truth about this world. However, Lydia tells that there are a group of people who are willing to do anything to achieve their goal. It is known that they don't make research on brain and sorcery, but cut open a sorcerer's brain directly. They don't doubt to cross the human's bottom line, and they call themselves eugenics. Lydia states they want to rope her in, but she refuses. Apart from that, they have started to contact other sorcerers. Lydia conveys him a message implicitly that Ray understood. After that, they take a walk in the nearby forest and recall Ray's training when they were in the Ainsworth's boot camp. It was a training that even the unit's elite were having a hard time, but he could finish it well when he was a child. Lydia asks if he has made friends. Ray tells her after enrolling in the academy, he has had several friends, including Alyssa, who likes her works. Lydia then tells him to invite them to see her. They then talk about the swordsman tournament that is competed by the 3 academies of sorceries of the kingdom. Lydia states she won the tournament 4 times consecutively. She believes that Ray will be able to do it. However, Ray doesn't want to stand out since he is still recovering. He wants to support his friend. Lydia states with her current state, she is no longer able to protect him. Later, Lydia gives Ray a notebook. The scene switches to Elisa, who gets ready to go somewhere and encounters with Ray. She tells him she wants to go to the library and the bookstore. Ray asks if he can join her. Elisa is surprised to hear that and is blushed. She then changes her clothes that looks more feminine. Ray praises her appearance that according to him, it reveals her beauty. Elisa is glad to hear his compliment, and she praises him, stating he is cool.
Oh, エリサじゃないか。おはよう。
今日は中央区の
俺も同行していいか。
お待たせ。どうかな。
その髪型がいいな。ありがとう、エリサ。なるほど、特進が言った。
レイ君と。
Arriving at the library, Ray helps Elisa to pick the book that contains Ainsworth's research related to engram, which made a new movement in the research of sorcery. There, Ray is reading a romance novel by Luna Etel that surprises Elisa. Ray explains that by reading a novel, she might feel the someone's emotion accurately. Unexpectedly, Clarice watches them from behind the pillar. She thinks that it is difficult to talk to him. As she murmuring the lines to herself, Ray replies to her from behind. Much to her surprise, Ray invites her to have lunch with them. That makes her shocked and shy. Clarice accepts the invitation while playing Act Sundeer. In the restaurant, Ray introduces Elisa to Clarice, and after that introduces Clarice to Elisa. It is shown that Ray is a sweet talker, which he praises someone's strength and kindness, making them blush. Even though they were awkward at the beginning, they later enjoyed their meal while talking casually to each other. While parting ways with Elisa and Clarice, Ray unexpectedly meets Amelia, who has just come from Nobleman Gathering. She states she is tired with the meeting. Moreover, with the tournament is getting closer, that makes they often to have meeting. Amelia apologizes to Ray for her complaining, which Ray replies that it was awk. Ray states that it is useful to vent out her emotion. Once again, Ray compliments her appearance that looks feminine and reveals her beauty. They talk in a bench, and Amelia feels upset after learning that Ray had spent time with Elisa and Clarice. Amelia then asks Ray to accompany her. They head to the store and Amelia puts on several outfits. Ray compliments all the clothes she is trying. When she is going to try another pair, a spider appears. Amelia is scared and rushes out the fitting room before she can put on her clothes and accidentally hugs Ray. She notices that she hasn't put on her clothes and she rushes to get into the room in embarrassment. However, Ray apologizes to her for touching her soft skin. The scene switches in Helena's room. Helena asks Ray how his school life. Ray tells her he is quite satisfied with it. She is worried since Ray is the first ordinary to get into the academy, and that the nobles must have suppressed him. Apart from that, she thinks she cannot do anything. She states that even after being a teacher for several years, she is still trying to be a sorcery researcher, where they always get an ordinary every year, but they cannot get used to life in the academy and left the place. Whereas they have a great chance to be the great sorcerers, she feels she couldn't do anything to help them and failed as a teacher. Thus, she expresses her wish to become his master and asks him to come to her if he gets into a problem. Ray states he is thankful to have a teacher and friend like her. On the other hand, Albert's friend is looking for Albert, whom has not returned to the academy. Meanwhile, Albert is seen in the forest. He unleashes his magic to vent out his anger to Ray. An intruder sees this and smiles. The scene moves and shows Ray, who is working out with the Environment Researcher Club members. Later, he is given a spare key to the club room by his senior. She tells him the members will not be going today, and he probably arrive earlier than Rebecca. Ray gets into the club room and coincidentally sees Rebecca, who is changing her clothes. He apologizes and closes the door. Rebecca serves tea for him, and seeing Ray apologizing to her, she states that it was coincidence. She tells him she usually wears a more mature underwear and tells him to forget about it. There, Ray is curious on one particular book. Rebecca explains it is a record made from generations of the gardening club. Furthermore, she states that she also records flowers that change because of the sorcery. They head to the garden and looking at the plants that can use sorcery. Ray is surprised by the fact. Rebecca explains that it happens during the process of evolution, and they show a phenomenon that is similar to sorcery. Rebecca feels happy as she can teach a new member about plants. She states that because she comes from the top nobleman family, everyone is keeping their distance from her. Even though they are nice and kind, but they feel concerned whenever she teaches them. Thus, she feels glad because Ray is easy to open up. On the other hand, Ray also feels happy to get a new insight from her, and he borrows the book to study. They then continue talking in the garden about the swordsman tournament. Ray tells her he supports Amelia, but Rebecca states that Amelia is the favorite to win the amateur group. Ray asks her the other students from the 3 top families. Rebecca explains that the Olgren family gets into Dian Academy for generations. They also have the eldest daughter that would be Amelia's rival. The scene moves to Amelia, who is practicing a duel. The teacher explains that the preliminary contest will be held to choose its representatives, where the amateur group is fought between first-year students, and it makes everyone that is going to participate will be rivals. Amelia is seen winning the duel and asks Ray to be her rival. The teacher states Ray is not a participant, but Ray accepts it. Amelia and Ray are seen to get ready for the duel. Ray stops Amelia's quick attacks. Ray compliments him for having good skill at swordsmanship, even though he cannot use sorcery quite well. Amel attacks him with her wooden sword that can be blocked well by him. He recalls the time when he practiced swordsmanship with his master. As he wants to attack her, he feels something and loosens his grip, causing his sword to fall. It seems like Amelia wins the duel and everyone cheers for her. Amelia asks him about the last attack and asks who he is. Meanwhile, Albert seems to hold his anger. The scene switches. Ray and his friends are having a break time and talk about Amelia and Ray. Evie asks Ray where he learned from. Ray tells them that he has a master that teaches him everything. Just then, Albert shows up and challenges Ray on a duel. Without hesitation, Ray accepts the challenge. In the duel arena, the barrier has been set up so that no one can find them. Surprisingly, Albert proposes to use real swords and sorcery in the duel. Albert immediately launches his attack towards Ray. The intruder is seen at the scene, watching both of them. Albert recalls his past life. It is revealed that he was born from a mid-lower noble family. All this time, he has seen his father is humiliated. It makes him want to his family into an honorable and respected family. He will work hard until he becomes a great sorcerer. Albert gets prompts to kill Ray. Albert then attacks him barbarically. Surprisingly, Ray manages to block the attack with sword that surprises everyone. Albert thinks Ray is an illegitimate son of a noble family. Ray states that he is just an ordinary that can use sorcery. Moreover, he states that lineage is not a standard for being the good sorcerer. Alberts is engulfed with anger and launches his ultimate attack, but Ray cuts it and makes it disappear. Albert kneels and tears up.
こうして戦うこともでミスターアリウム、あれは大事なことなのだろう。いるということではない。こうなったら
あれって
無理するのだ。
Amelia, once again, asks him who he is. As he is about to answer it, they suddenly get hit by a sorcery and kneel down except Ray. The intruder shows up and states they are going to be sacrificial and will give a contribution on sorcery development. It is then revealed that the intruder is Helena Gray, their teacher. Ray tells his friends to calm down and promises will tell them his identity. Ray then talks to Helena and assumes she is a member of eugenics, where her goal is to obtain engram from the students. Moreover, the students who left the academy are said to be sacrificial. Helen confirms it and aims Ray to be her next target. She kidnapped the students in Kafka Forest while training was going on and controlled the monster. It turns out she has played an act to get what she wants. She also confirms that she has controlled Albert and used him to buy time to set up a barrier. She feels excited as she is going to get competent students in one time and will be promoted. Helena notices Ray is a competent in close combat and has a high capacity of prima materia. Helena then attacks Ray with her sorcery. Ray runs avoiding its attack. Helena then leads her attack towards the other students. Seeing his friends are in danger, Ray remembers Lydia's word to use his power to make judgment. Finally, he reveals himself and uses his power to block Helena's attack. Ray uses his power, Icicle Blaze, making Helena is feared to see the Ice Blade that identical with Ice Blade Sorcerer that had disappeared in the Far East War. Ray confirms it and states that the title has been passed on to him. Helena doesn't believe him and attacks him with her sorcery, but Ray stops it easily. Helena then blows her ultimate strike, Purgatory Dragon. Ray then activates the anti-material code, making it vanish. Helena runs in fear, and Ray strikes using Frame Lock and manages to stop her. Helena asks if he is the real Ice Blade Sorcerer and offers to introduce him to eugenics and will make him an executive. Helena begs him to spare her as her research hasn't finished yet. It turns out she is trying to deceive him and attacks him once again, but it goes in vain. She states she cannot win over a Grand Sorcerer. Ray intends to capture her alive rather than killing her. Just then, Helena takes out her secret weapon and activates the Dark Triad system into her brain, transforming her into a monster. She states it is the result of her work. The barrier is seen to be destroyed, and Ray is fighting Helena in the air. As expected from the Ice Blade Sorcerer, he manages to fend off and stop her attack. That makes her confused. Ray then explains that the ice blades around him are only attributive and that things that represent the Ice Blade Sorcerer. Helena blows another strike, but Ray uses deceleration and lock registration to clear it. Ray then questions her the distinction between fire sorcery and ice sorcery. It turns out the biggest difference is in the code that is used to accelerate or decelerate the vibration of molecules. Ray states that while ice sorcery is the operation of deceleration, he can carry out a precise build of code deceleration to control both sorceries, and by using anti-material code he can turn the code theory and turn it back into prima materia. Ray uses his Ice Blade, while Helena attacks using Mind Interfere sorcery. Ray manages to stop the sorcery from Helena, but he is freezing. Helena then notices that Ray cannot control his power and thinks she may have a chance. Helena tries to attack him once more, which he fights with his blade. Ray then uses Ice Flower's Perfusion sorcery, and she is pulled into ice whirlwind and trapped in it. Everyone is stunned to see the duel. Ray proceeds Deceleration and Chronos lock to stop his power. He feels glad and relieved to save everyone, and he falls unconscious. The scene switches into the past where Lydia found him in the war. Lydia brings him to the base and is welcomed by Carol, who states that she has become a mother. Her superior asks her what happened. Lydia tells him she found the boy in the war and that he is the sole survivor. Abby then informs Lydia that the country refuses to take him in as he lives in a special village, where it is within the kingdom, but it is independent, and the country doesn't consider him as its citizen, which his village is assumed a cursed village as they have rituals and deities to summon God. Abby states that even though ritual and region exist in the kingdom, since the code theory was found, magic known as unusual power and became the system of sorcery. The research was carried out further and uncovered the truth about the world. Abby tells her that the boy has regained his consciousness, and Lydia rushes to see him. There, Carol accompanies him and asks him his name, but he doesn't answer. Lydia approaches them and asks the boy his name. The boy mentions his name is Ray. On the other day, Lydia invites him to play baseball, but he is reading a book with Carol. She looks happy and close to him. On the other hand, Lydia is happy that Ray is acting cool towards Carol, that upsetting her. Lydia and Carol are surprised to see Ray smiling. Later that night, Lydia and Abby talk about Ray's fate in the future. Abby asks Lydia if she will take him in. Lydia states she won't as they are soldiers, but she doesn't know what Carol will be doing. The scene moves to Carol, who seems to want to be with Ray. She tells her superior that she wants to take care of him, but her superior states they are on a mission. The colonel asks for opinion from the others, and Abby suggests they can bring Ray to an orphanage or adopted by someone. Meanwhile, Lydia doesn't say a word. Just then, she spots Ray behind the door. Ray then approaches her and asks her if he can live with her. Lydia then asks the chief to let her take him in. She states she has an older sister that has a daughter in same age with him. Besides, Carol and Abby will also help her to take care of him. The chief finally allows her to take him in condition that it will not disturb her duty. Hearing that, Carol is glad, and so does Ray, who can live with all of them. Lydia takes him as her disciple and will teach him everything she knows that makes him excited. 6 years passed where the Far East War was going on in Maris Republic. Ray is seen helping the soldiers of Arnold Kingdom and attacks the enemy with the ice blade, that enabling them to take over the war zone. On the other hand, the enemy's soldiers are surprised to see Ray, who is still young, joins the unit of Arnold Kingdom. Meanwhile, Lydia and Abby look at the troops died in the war zone. The area was designed to create overheat so that the soldiers cannot control their power, and it is known as the disease of the modern sorcery. The scene moves to the headquarters, where their superior informs them there are 2 sorcerers who died. They are surprised to find that grand sorcerers can get killed, but Abby assumes that the Empire got involved in the war. Their superior predicts the war will get worse and they probably get injured. Besides, they are worried of Ray and ask him to back out. Moreover, he is still too young to be in a war. However, Ray states that his master taught him that great power brings great consequences. Apart from that, he considers everyone in the unit as family: Lieutenant Colonel Henrik, Captain Corain, Colonel Garrett, Derek, Havard, Lydia, and Carol, and he had determined since he joined the unit. Hearing that, Havard promises to save him if something happens to him. But unexpectedly, Havard died in the war that caused Ray to experience overheating. In the incident, Ray sees Havard, who tells him to live on and grow strong. Ray wakes up moments later and sees Lydia next to him. Ray apologizes her for using his ability. Furthermore, Ray is worried with his friends. Abby tells him everyone has recovered. Lydia strokes his head and leaves. Carla then approaches Ray and tells him that Lydia is worried about him. After that, Abby reveals that she doesn't allow him to enroll in the academy as the students of the academy are overly concerned with lineage. She thinks he won't be happy because he will get bullied. But Lydia begged her to let him enroll in the academy despite she had never done that. This fact surprises Ray. On the other hand, Lydia, who finds out Ray didn't get severe injuries, is crying in a river. Abby leaves the room and tells Amelia and her friends to come in. Ray then tells them his secret, that he is the Ice Blade Sorcerer, one of the Grand Sorcerers. He tells them after he fought with his unit in the Far East War, Ray caused overheating and made he lose control of his Ingram, making the land around him dry and his master injured. He currently uses Chronos' lock spell to prevent overheat. That's what makes Ray not good at sorcery. He blames himself for killing many people and hide this matter from them, and he thinks he has no right to be close to them, but Amelia assures that they are always with him and believes in him. The others also assure him because he is an amazing person and tells him not to worry about his past. Amelia hugs him while saying they want to be with him. It reminds him with his unit back then and feels thankful for this. Later that night, Albert comes to visit Ray in his ward. He apologizes for what he did. Ray accepts his apology because he has admitted his wrongdoing and apologized sincerely. Albert realizes he cannot win over Ray. Furthermore, he asks Ray why he can be so strong and live an honest life. Ray then states that bloodline and talent are great things, but this is not all. Hard work and environment are also important. Furthermore, he states that he has just been living properly in a good environment. He then advises Albert to rid himself of confusion and examine himself. Albert then realizes he doesn't need to hate people but accept them. He cries while determined to become a better person. After the incident, Abby introduces a new homeroom teacher for Ray's classroom. She is Carol that makes everyone fascinated. On the other hand, Ray is stunned to find Carol as his new teacher. The scene switches and shows Amelia, who is in her tub. She is thinking about Ray as the ice blade sorcerer who had experienced a cruel past. Whereas he is worthy of praise, Amelia also thinks she cannot do anything, like a bird in the cage. She remembers the incident when she hugged Ray. She recalls Ray was not surprised, and it makes her think of her sexual appeal. In the classroom, Carol is talking about the swordsmanship tournament that will be participated by 3 academies, where the first-year students will compete in the amateur group, and the second year and above will compete in the qualifying group. Carol explains there are 16 students picked by the academies. Because last year, Rebecca from Arnold Academy won the tournament, Arnold Academy can send 6 students, which in regulation only 5 students. Arnold Academy is known for its good combined abilities, but Diam Academy is better in physical combat, and Mercross Academy is excellent in academic research. It makes each academy has its own unique traits. Carol asks them to cooperate with the committee, as they are an important part of the tournament, and winks at Ray, which shocks him. Later, Ray meets Abby and asks her to fire Carol. He states he can't understand her, yet she becomes his class teacher. Abby comments that Carol is good at sorcery and her knowledge might be useful. Besides, the students must like her. Ray disagrees and states that they don't know her true color. He insists her to get Carol fired. However, Carol appears behind him and teases him while saying that he is mean. Ray is shocked and runs in fear, with Carol chases him. The scene switches to the preliminary round of the tournament. Ray is seen watching the tournament with Clarice. He can predict the winner in one look. That makes Clarice surprised. Ray states that with a large difference in strength, the winner can be determined in the first 3 seconds. Later, Amelia is seen fighting her opponents, and he needs only 6 seconds to defeat her opponent. But Ray thinks there is something off with her, where she completed her duty coldly. The scene moves to Amelia, who receives insight from her father, in which he hopes Amelia to win and tells her to give it her best and not to lose in the match. Meanwhile, Olbrin family sends Ariane to compete in the match. Ray discusses about Ariane with Rebecca and Dina. They talk that Diam Academy sends Ariane as the representative of the academy. Rebecca states Ariane is different from Amelia, where she is proud of her identity and alters it to be her strength. Dina is also amazed with her because she is amazing when she was practicing. However, Rebecca and Dina believe that Amelia can defeat her. The scene returns to Amelia, who taking down all her opponents that makes her pass and qualified into the swordsmanship tournament. It brings joy to everyone. Besides, Albert with new haircut is also qualified in the tournament after defeated by Amelia and ranks the second. Ray feels happy seeing his new personality. Later that night, Ray reads the book from Lydia the other day. The following day, Ray waits for Amelia, who is walking along the path, and she doesn't seem to enjoy the match. Ray asks if she wants to be strong. Amelia tells him she is worried with Ariane, who joins the tournament as Ariane is stronger than her. Ray tells her she has 1 month left until the tournament is held and offers her to train her. He tells he will use the newest Ainsworth method that is known strict in training. He says he used the method when he built his foundation. Amelia looks happy and excited. Ray shifts into a strict master to make her stronger. The scene shows a flashback of Amelia's childhood, where she met Ariane for the first time. They seem to get closer, and it is seen that Ariane's physical ability is stronger than her. Ariane is seen climbing the tree faster, and doesn't fear playing with bugs, and while learning to dive, Ariane also wins from Amelia. Amelia is very grateful that Ariane invited her to play together. However, Ariane says that she should be the one to thank her because she was always running around her and thinks Amelia might hate her. Amelia states that she was always at home, and Ariane would bring her out, and it made her happy and wanted to befriend with her forever. Then after they grew up, they had fighting practice and Ariane easily defeated her. As Ariane wanted to help her, Amelia left the battlefield and they grew further apart since then. Amelia thinks she changed, and she thought about herself, who was born as a noble that requires her to win in the tournament. Amelia gets ready for training and Ray is seen to arrive with great enthusiasm. He is wearing a mask and calls himself Master White, who will be Amelia's instructor. And they begin their training with a 20 kilometers run, where she is prohibited to use physical enhancement. She then begins running along the route depending on her own strength. As she finishes running, Ray states it was a small thing and they will do something more serious. That makes Amelia shocked. Amelia is seen exhausted after getting Ray's hard training from day to night. She looks to have a hard time and feels like she is in hell until she dreams of chasing Ariane and falls. Elisa and Clarice come to cheer her up. That makes her feel like in heaven. After that, Ray arrives, corners, and seduces her. Amelia wakes up and sees Ray is in the window. However, she is scared to see him because she is still exhausted. On the other hand, Ray is scolded by Dina and Rebecca for entering the girls' dormitory. However, Ray gives them compliments as they find they are charming in pajamas. Ray then spots Amelia, who is running away from him. He rushes to chase her, but he encounters Albert, who asks him how to be strong. He states he has trained, but he still cannot rid his confusion. Ray tells him to take it slow as he will get stronger by time. Hearing that, Albert becomes more confident. Elsewhere, Clarice is struggling with her work that makes her hair in a mess, and Elisa tidies it for her. Ray arrives and asks about Amelia's whereabouts, but they don't know where she is. Ray then uses his tracking skill, and he easily finds her. It turns out she is hiding under the table. She is surprised as Ray can find her, and she gives him excuses. However, Ray pulls her to continue the training. Seeing that, Elisa and Clarice feel sorry for her. Later, Ray visits the chief of the Environment Research Club to create a cheerleading squad for Amelia. He wants Amel to feel the support that makes her enthusiastic. He thinks that with the help of the people with the strongest physique in the academy will definitely become the greatest cheerleading squad. Evie feels excited with the idea, and the others also agree with it. Besides, the club leader also gives him something that makes him more excited. The following day, Amelia is training with Elisa and Clarice and gets improved that makes them happy. Just then, a girl comes and praises Amelia, which is answered casually by Amelia like what Ray told her. However, they don't know who she is. Besides, the girl also thanks Rebecca and Dina, who take care of the garden. Dina notices the girl is wearing uniform of Diam Academy, but she doesn't recognize her. Meanwhile, Rebecca is aware that the girl is Ray, who is in disguise, and is heading to Diam Academy. In the box, Ray sneaks into the academy. There he sees a little girl crying while looking for her sister. Ray approaches her and shows herself in front of her. Thank you, viewers who have always faithfully watched the videos on this channel from start to finish. Remember to subscribe, comment, and like this video if you enjoy our content. See you in the next video.